style is the crooner, so I'm Sinatra, Michael Bublé, and also I include Willie Nelson because I like his style. So today it's mostly Sinatra with a little bit of Willie Nelson. I have one song by come on.
Take your time. I'll get to that.
Okay.
Please feel free to stop and start. I know
Nat King Cole.
Okay, Nat King Cole. Okay.
Unforgettable by Nat King Cole.
What a set list then. How many songs?
Well, I do 20 songs. Takes me an hour.
Okay.
If I don't have any interruptions. So I load my machine, as I call it,
Yeah.
which is this guy.
All right.
And so there'll be a list of 20 songs, and I can mount it and push a button. And the value of this machine is it's a karaoke kind of tool, but I'm also able to cut out the singing, and then I have the background music. And that's what I really like when I'm singing here. So I can vocal, but also I have this background music, which kind of makes it, I think, makes it more complete.
Yeah. And how did this all? Why the crooner? What is it about Sinatra? What is it that?
Well, that's a good question too. I started really singing about 2 years ago, 2019.
Wait. You started singing 2 years ago?
Yes,
What happened? How old are you?
I'm 81.
What happened at 79?
Well, there's a sort of a birthday story in this.
Okay.
We were in Portugal 2 years, 2016, 2017, and I heard this Portuguese style of music called fado, and we went to this club, and there were performers and so on, and the songs, the melodies, the message really resonated in me. And so then, right then, I said to Manuel, who was the club owner, I want to come back in 2 years and sing Portuguese songs for my 80th birthday. And so that happened, and we did it. And
Well, wait. Had you ever sung before?
not really, no, because you see, I'm a white shirt and tie guy, in the oil business, and we work, and so it really wasn't a part of my lifestyle up until then.
Was it ever like as a kid? Was it a part of your life?
Well, I don't know, but the point here is that when I went to my music teacher, I was able to find Maureen Washington, who's a local diva, beautiful lady, has a gorgeous voice, and so when we started doing this music, she presented a series of songs, and several were Sinatra, and I knew them. I knew the words and the music. So then we just kept going on Sinatra, and I think that relates to my younger years, eh?
Yeah.
Like Sinatra's good sounds are in the mid 50s and the mid 60s, and so I was in a teenage era there, and so I think all those guys stuck inside me. And so now when I have about 150 songs in my repertoire, and they're all from that era, and I know all the melodies, and I know most of the words, so this is why singing for me is quite enjoyable. I'm not having to really come up with a verb. I'm sort of there and sing these songs and enjoy it.
So here's a guy, except for like all of us, we all listen to music in our youth. But here's somebody who, from what I'm hearing, didn't have a musical bone in their body. And then all of a sudden you've done this. Must have been a challenge? Was it?
Well, it was. The challenge more is when I started with these Portuguese songs. But they have melodies and they have rhythms, and so that had to be, taken on. And then, but the whole challenge was the song itself, I think. And when you sing a song, especially in Portuguese, there is a lot of emotion. So you become part of that song. So I worked on these things so that I can take 5 of them back to Portugal and sing. And I found that I enjoyed that.
What was that concert like? I don't know, maybe in your previous job, did you have to ever speak in front of people?
Oh yeah, sure. There's the management style and leadership and so on, and that's been part of my history.
Was there fear involved in that first performance?
with in Portugal?
Yeah.
No. Whoa, wait a minute. There wasn't there? My first song.
I may have to talk to you, Ollie.
My first song started really quickly because the club that I was performing in, I was going to have two accompanists, a classical guitar and a Portuguese guitar. But these guys were busy on something else, so we didn't rehearse. So, so when I stepped up to the little platform, it was the first time for the three of us, and I was nervous, you know. But these guys are professionals, and they kind of carried me along.
And how did it? Is there footage of that?
It's a video.
Okay,
It's
great.
outstanding.
Okay, good. So how did it go?
Good, good. Well, you know, the test is, in my mind, is the club is not really very large. Maybe it holds 3 dozen people, and it's kind of on a public parkway or walkway. So that night, the club was full of natives, locals, people, you know. And so when I'm singing, I could see them follow me because they knew all the words. And then when the song was done, you know, then they were quite responsive. So that kind of encouraged you to keep going. And it was a heck of an experience. No question.
I think this is just. I think this would be remarkable at any age to challenge oneself in this way.
Yeah.
But especially, I know as I get older, I kind of get more set in my ways. I almost get less courageous.
Yeah.
You've done this is amazing.
Well-
What can we learn from you?
Well, that age is not necessarily the criteria if you're interested in something. And if you sort of can see a little passion coming along with this interest, then there's no reason why anybody couldn't do this, really.
How have you changed? How who is Malcolm? Who was Malcolm at 78,
Yeah.
say, and who is Malcolm now at 81?
Oh, that's a great question. My life has been quite influenced by music, but I have also, Holly and I are great travelers. And so with this music, I can take my singing with me when we go to Europe. And last year I was busking in the major cities. And but so there's a whole new experience.
You're
you know?
busking at 80.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I could say I was busking here, by the diver. But yeah, so that has added a whole level of activity and pleasure, really. And because I have other interests that I continue, but the singing is kind of just coming along and along. So the COVID sort of could have slowed things down, because I then couldn't do my music lessons with Maureen. She could, coach me and stuff. So that was a bit of a concern for me. But we got thinking about music. But how when the COVID started, there were amazing stories about people volunteering, doing, fitting, first line people, and so in my mind, well, what can I do? And how could I contribute? And then for me, singing is you have to keep working at it, and you need a kind of a positive or music state of mind when you're doing it. So you kind of just work with it. So if I'm in the COVID world, I won't be able to do that. So then this idea about me coming out and singing sort of took root. And so in early April, I took my gear and I went up to the head of the driveway of the place that we were staying at. And every day I would sing an hour, and not necessarily needing an audience, but I'm in a kind of an apartment area. And
Do you have any footage of that?
Yeah.
so over
This is even better than I thought.
over time, you get to know the neighbors. Some of them would come by and say, so when I know it's time for your singing, I just go out in the garden and I sit and just enjoy it. Or I get a lot of these, good for you kind of thing, because that's really the idea, that this would be hopefully a distraction or a new interest for people to take their mind off of whatever's going on. And I know that happens now after having done this for months, so to speak.
Oh, isn't that lovely? How has it affected your relationship with Holly?
Well, Holly Holly has started a new voice, and when we've been singing for other people, and sometimes Holly likes to get out and dance around. So there's kind of a new energy that comes out of our relationship.
Are you guys married?
Yeah,
How long have you been married for?
about 7 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um,
She's an American girl, a California girl. So that's quite a descriptor when you use that term.
wow. And then, so you're just singing in your driveway,
Yep.
and I guess you got enough of a fan base there that you decided to now come down here.
Well, I was there for 3 months, and I never missed a day. And gradually, I could see that more and more people were out and about, especially if you went over to Beacon, in June. You'd think it was just a regular day. So I thought, well, maybe if I come out here, I could reach more people, because of the activity along the walk, for example. And because we're trying to just get people recognize what we're doing, so I ask for smiles, and so I get a lot of smiles. But there are the people that are just walking, and a lot of the visitors are kind of interested, but the locals have given me a great reaction and response.
I did ask you this earlier in the conversation, but
Yeah.
Now that I've learned so much, like from that first concert you did, to then kind of spreading some joy during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Again, what can we learn from you? For us, we don't have these same skills as you, but just as people living our lives, what can we learn from your courage and your talent and your
Well, the whole game of standing in front of people and singing is a challenge, and I find now that I'm not the least bit inhibited or concerned that I'm going to do another day of singing. So I kind of think it's an attitude thing that evolves after time, and then, but it's what really is impressing me about the COVID is people and what they are trying to do to make things better. And so maybe that's where you start. Hey, what can I do? Like we would do the pots at 7 p.m. So we upgraded to the singing, But I just kind of think it's an attitude thing, and as I said before, there's no reason why you can't just try it. You could try it. You could come down and join me in a duel, and we could see how you go.
There wouldn't be any smiles, I assure you. I'll leave that to you guys. Awesome. Anything else you want to add? You're great.
What would I want to add? I discovered, after I was doing this for a while, what do I want to get out of this? And one day, I met a gentleman who said, I was in my apartment and you sang every day, and he said, you really made a difference in how I was approaching things and getting along, and he said, you sort of saved my life. And so when I heard that, I thought, well, that's it. That's the only reason. I don't need to do or worry about anything else. I've done one big impression story. So anymore now, I just like to go along. I kibitz with people as they walk by, and I've had a guy who plays the harp, and he's come down and played with me a couple times. And I had Dana from Victoria, who's in the Victoria Conservatory of Music.
Visiting from Victoria? You visited?
Yeah, she was a visitor. She was walking by and she had this case. And so I said, hey, what's in the case? And so that led to her coming and joining me, taking out her violin, and she said, well, what are we going to play? And I said, well, I'm going to play this song. And she said, okay, I'll just follow along. So she was talented enough that she could follow the music. And yeah, I mean, there's this great moments like that too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.